Stop. Get out. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be filming my June reading wrap up. I'm going to be talking about all the books that I read this month. I did one of these for May and I really enjoyed filming it, so I thought that I'd do one for June as well, and I want to do one for every month. So yeah, this is all the books I read in June. I read 18 books this month, so we have a lot to talk about, so we should just get right into it. So the first book that I read this month was Credence by Penelope Douglas, and I absolutely love this book. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. This book was so good. It's been on my TBR for a little while and I finally decided to read it, and it's one of those books that's like, oh my god, why didn't I read this sooner? So this follows Tianan, and basically both her parents die and she isn't 18 yet, so she can't like stay on her own. And so her step uncle, who she's never met before, calls her and is like, hey, your parents gave me legal guardianship of you. You don't have to come live with me if you don't want to, but the option's there. He lives in the mountains, like in the middle of nowhere essentially, and is like, yeah, you can come stay with me and my 2 sons if you want, but like, you don't have to. And Tianan's like, well, should I really go stay with this stranger that I have never met before, who I don't know? And she like kind of like decides that she's gonna go. She doesn't really have anything to lose, so she may as well go live with her step uncle. And yeah, so she decides to go. She moves up there. She meets one of the sons, which are her step cousins. Keyword being step. They're not related. No one is related to each other. She's never met these people before, and she moves in with them. And yeah, so they live in the, like I said, they live in the middle of nowhere, and so there's like there's not much Wi-Fi, like there isn't really much around. It's a very small town, and during the winter they get like snowed into their house essentially, so like the roads get blocked off and they can't really go anywhere, and so she's left in this house with these 3 men during the winter time for like 3 months. And yeah, things start to happen between all of them. She gets with all of them, I'm pretty sure, but there is only one love interest. I had absolutely no idea who the love interest was until about 70% into the book, and like I knew for sure at about 70% in. Like I had like a feeling beforehand, but I didn't know for sure until 70% in, and it was the person who I wanted it to be, so I was like excited. But I will say he is very weird at first, and I was like, that's interesting, but I absolutely love him. He ends up being like the sweetest guy. Overall, such a good book. The next book that I read is Mr. Garcia by T.L. Swan. This book came out in April, I think, and I've been waiting to read it, and I finally read it. It is the 3rd book in the Mr. series, so I read Mr. Masters and Mr. Spencer earlier in the year, and Mr. Garcia is the last book in this series. So Mr. Garcia follows Sebastian Garcia and April, and basically they meet at April's work. She works at a coffee shop, and they meet there, and she serves him and gives him the worst coffee he's ever had, but yeah, he keeps coming back. And yeah, eventually things happen between them, and then something goes completely wrong and they end up hating each other. And then fast forward 6 years later, which I was not expecting, I was like, things were going so well, and then obviously everything kind of turned to shit, and I was like, oh no, what is happening? Like, we can fix this, we can work back from this, like it's fine. And I thought it was just gonna, you know, continue on, maybe skip like a month or 2, but no, 30% in, 6-year time jump, and I was like shocked, and I was like, I don't know if I want to keep on reading. Like, this is like because I feel like time jumps either make or break a book. It's either like a good thing or it's a bad thing, and if you've read a lot of T.L. Swan's books, you know that she often has time jumps in her books. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna trust her It's gonna be fine. And I'm so glad I kept reading because it was so good. Anyway, fast forward 6 months later and they meet again because April ends up working for him. It's like kind of a complicated situation. I don't really want to say too much because it's like a spoiler, but she doesn't like work for him, but like she kind of works with him, and that's how they meet again. And it's like, oh my god, shocked. And they're both very shocked, and then things obviously go from there and they hate each other, but they still have this connection from 6 years ago. And yeah, so good. I was a little worried when I saw the time jump. I was like, oh my god, this could be really bad, but it ended up being really good. And I love Sebastian. Oh my god, he's everything. The next book that I read is Look the Part by Julianne, I think. I don't know. The cover's on the screen, you can see the author. This book was not my favorite. I read it because it was a single dad romance, and I love single dad romances. It's one of my favorite tropes. Single parent in general, but specifically single dad, it's one of my favorite tropes of all time. And so this one is a single parent novel, and I was like, okay, this sounds good. It sounds like it's gonna be really good. And then I was kind of let down. It wasn't the best. It wasn't awful. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, but not my favorite. The next book that I read is To Hate Adam Connor by Ella Maisie, I think. I'm not sure what the author's last name is. This is another single dad romance. Like I said, some of my favorite books, and I'm going to be talking in depth about this book in a recommendations video coming up, so I'm not going to talk too much about it in this video. But this follows Adam and Lucy, and basically they end up being next door neighbors, and then something happens and they end up hating each other, but he needs someone to look after his son, and his son forms this connection with her. And his son is the most adorable little boy. He's like 5 and he's so cute. I was like, oh my god, some of the things he was saying, like he's just adorable. It was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I wasn't expecting much from it at first, but it ended up being a really good book. The next book that I read is Reckless Night by Ashley Jade. And then the next 4 books that I read are all part of the Royal Hearts Academy series. If you've watched my most recent video, which is Enemies to Lovers romance recommendations, I'll leave it linked in the little I talked about Reckless Night in this video, so I'm not going to talk too much about it here, but this is one of my favorite books of all time. It has become one of my favorite books of all time. I love this book. Oh my god. Cole Covington, marry me, please. Like, I'm obsessed with him. Cole and Sawyer are everything. Their relationship is just my favorite thing ever. And I love this book. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Obviously, literally one of my favorite books of all time. It's heartbreaking, but it's so good. So good. Loved it. And that is the second book in the Royal Hearts Academy series. I read that one first, and then I read Cruel Prince afterwards. Cruel Prince is the first book, which I definitely recommend reading that book first. It just kind of makes everything flow a lot better. So Cruel Prince is a bully romance, childhood friends to enemies to lovers. So Dylan and Jace are childhood best friends, and then something happens which causes Dylan to leave. And then fast forward, I don't remember how many years later, but she comes back and she starts at the school, and Jace absolutely hates her. They haven't had contact for all the years that she's been gone, and Dylan never really understood why. And so she came back and she's like, oh my god, like I can see Jace. But they were friends, but they always loved each other when they were younger. And so she's like, I can go back, I can see him, and we can, like, you know, rekindle this friendship. And then he's like, I hate you. I don't want anything to do with you, go away. And he starts bullying her. He's awful to her. You know, slowly they start, you know, rekindling that friendship. This book's also really heartbreaking, and yes, very sad, but so good. And then the third book in this series is Wicked Princess. This book is about Bianca, the third Covington sibling. She's the youngest, and this book's short compared to the others because it kind of ties in with the fourth book, Broken Kingdom. And I can't really say much about either of these books, but basically Bianca gets into an accident. Those two books go hand in hand. I can't, like, literally can't say anything about either of them. Okay, so editing Shantelle coming in here for a second because apparently I couldn't explain this properly in the video, but basically Bianca gets into this accident. Her book is her recovering from this accident, and you get to see how she gets her life back on track after this accident that happened. And then the fourth book, Broken Kingdom, is about Oakley. I love Oakley, and it's about his journey to find love, which may or may not be with a certain someone mentioned in the first books that you see him with. And that's all I'll say because I don't want to spoil anything, but that book is also extremely heartbreaking and extremely frustrating, and it's just so good. And all these books, the characters have so much depth to them, and it's just amazing. I love it. The next book that I read is The Truth About Heartbreak by B. Celeste. This is a very hyped up book, and I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really like it. And I wanted to love it. This book has been on my TBR for so long, and everyone that's recommended it in like videos has raved about it and said that they absolutely love it and it's so good. And I read it and I didn't hate it. I didn't love it either. It wasn't my favorite. I loved the start of it, and then there's a time jump, and the time jump I knew was happening because you get a little prologue chapter at the start that's like however many years in the future, and then it goes back and then it goes forward. And so yeah, like that wasn't my issue, but just I liked her when she was growing up. River, the main character, she was growing up and she got adopted by this family, and then she meets Everett, who is her adopted brother's best friend, and she is 13 at the start of the book. And so but they form this really good friendship and they have this like connection, but obviously like nothing can happen. He's 17 and she's 14 and he has a girlfriend, I think. Anyway, then it keeps skipping years until she gets to 23, I think, and then something finally happens between them. And yeah, I don't know, I didn't love it. I loved it when they were growing up and they're like friendship building, and like they had all this chemistry and you could see that they really wanted each other, but they just like couldn't be together. And yeah, Everett is the most frustrating character. Oh my god, it wasn't like, this book is so frustrating. So frustrating. I can't even describe to you how frustrating it is. And Everett has a girlfriend and there is cheating in this book. The cheating wasn't really my issue. I knew that there was cheating going into it. I didn't particularly love it, but I knew it was going to be there. But it was the fact that he just refused to break up with his girlfriend. I was like, what are you doing? Like, there's this big reason why he can't break up with his girlfriend, but in my opinion, if you've read it, you know, and you know what the reason is, in my opinion, that reason wasn't really that big of a deal. If you don't love your girlfriend, you don't want to be with her, you want to be with River, so break up with her and get with River. I didn't love this book. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. Yeah, not my favorite, extremely frustrating, but I mean, I guess that's really good writing if it frustrated me that much. But I honestly just wanted to throw my Kindle at the wall. I was like, I'm gonna smash this thing because I'm so frustrated and done with these characters, I can't even deal with it. And then I ended up reading the second book in the series, The Truth About Tomorrow. I loved this book so much more. I literally can't say anything about this book because it's just like, it's a spoiler for the first book, kind of. I can't really say anything, but yeah, the two characters in this book, oh, they're just perfect for each other. The guy is literally everything. I love him so much. I can't say who it is. It's 2 characters from the first book though, and they get together in the second book. I will say that the girl is 16 throughout majority of their relationship, and he is like in his 30s. So it is quite a big age gap, but I mean, the legal age of consent in Victoria is 16, so I was like fine with it. But yeah, just a little disclaimer, majority of their relationship, she is 16. Like, this is one of the most taboo books I think I've ever read. Like, I've read some taboo stuff, but this is just because of the whole like dynamic of something in the book, it like made it really taboo, and obviously the age gap as well. But yeah, but I really love this book. And then I read the novella about this couple, The Truth About Us, which I really loved as well. I gave both those books 4 out of 5 stars. And the next book I read is The Stopover by T.R. Swan. This book follows Jameson and Emily, and they meet on a flight. Something happens at the airport and she gets upgraded to first class, and she ends up sitting next to Jameson, and they start talking, and they're drinking, they're talking, they're forming this connection, and then their flight has to make an emergency stopover because there's like a storm or something, and they decide to, you know, keep talking, things happen, and then skip 12 months later. They haven't like had any contact with each other for like a year, and then she gets this job, and guess who the CEO of the company that she's working for is? And things go from there. So she ends up working for him, and this book is so good. I loved it. It was so good. Like I said, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. And yeah, the last books that I read is the Devil's Night series by Penelope Douglas. This series, oh my goodness, I'm obsessed. It's so good. So there's Corrupt, Hideaway, Kill Switch, and Nightfall, and those are the 4 books about the 4 boys. And then there's 2 novellas, Concave and Fire Night. Fire Night is just a novella about all of them in the future with their kids and stuff, and then Concave is a little novella between Hideaway and Kill Switch and Nightfall. It's just like a transition book, and yeah, I loved every single book in this series. So good. Oh my god, I love all the boys. Michael, Kai, Damon, Will, everything. They're 4 best friends, and each book follows a different boy. In each book they all have something happen with a girl on a Devil's Night. So Devil's Night is something that they do. It's the night before Halloween, and they basically pull pranks and make a mess of their town, and they're like known for it, and it's like just like the thing that they do. And so each book, something happens in the past with a girl on a Devil's Night, and that's how they like meet their girl in their book, and things happen between them on that Devil's Night, and then you skip to the present time, which is like however many years later, and they're like finding each other again, but they absolutely hate each other. So all of them are enemies to lovers. I'm not going to talk about all the books in depth. So the first book follows Michael and Rika, and basically Rika decides that she's always had this crush on Michael, and she decides that she wants to go out with them for Devil's Night, but she can't. She's not meant to because she's only 16, but she decided that she's gonna skip school and go with them anyway. And then so things happen between her and Michael, and then something happens, and 3 of the boys go to jail, Will, Damon, and Kai, and they all end up in jail because of something that happens, and they blame Rika for this happening. And so skip 3 years later, they're out of jail and they want revenge, and Michael is helping them, even though Michael doesn't really want to because he like likes Rika, but he's also like, she did this to my friends and that's not sitting right with me, like I need to help them because I'm loyal to my friends. And so basically they make her life a living hell, and they're trying to get revenge on her. So yeah, eventually things happen between Michael and Rika. So good. The love Michael has for Rika is everything. I'm obsessed. My favorite book in the series is Kill Switch, and oh my god, everyone hyped Kill Switch up, and everyone's like, oh my god, Kill Switch is the best book, it's amazing, so good. And I was like, how is it going to be this good when I literally hate Damon? If you've read the first book and the second book, which you need to read before you read Kill Switch, you know what I'm talking about. You don't like Damon in the first 2 books, but his book, oh my god, I'm obsessed with him. He is everything. Him and Winter are the best couple. I'm obsessed. I love him so much. Everything. Yeah, Kill Switch is my favorite. I gave that one 5 out of 5 stars. I gave the rest of them all 4 out of 5 stars. Yes, I loved that. I love these books. It's just like a universe that you want to be a part of, and like you want to be a part of their friendship group, and they're like family, and you just want to be like, I just want to be a part of that. It's just so much fun, and oh, I love it. And oh my god, there is a scene in Corrupt. It's very steamy. I was not expecting it. Steam room scene. If you read the book, you know what I'm talking about. I was like, oh my god, what is happening? I'm here for it. I love it. I was not expecting it. It's everything. There's also a scene in Kill Switch that I was hoping would happen, but I didn't think it would, and then it did, and I was like, oh my god, yes, I'm here for that. And Will and Damon's friendship is everything. I love it. This series is one of my favorite series of all time. It's so good. I'm obsessed. I will say Nightfall did drag on a little bit. It's the longest book, but I just was getting so frustrated. I was just like, just get together already. This is ridiculous. Just get together. And it just dragged on a little bit, but I just love Will's character so much that I just couldn't give it anything less than 4 stars. So that was all the books that I read this month. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Make sure you give it a thumbs up if you did. Subscribe to my channel if you're not already, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye guys.